Hello, and welcome to Terri Messenger's Genius Zone. And this is certainly the place and the space where, if you are looking for the greatest shifts in your life, you have truly come to the best place. We are going to bring on a wonderful woman. This woman is an absolute guru at the absolute mindset of releasing the monkey mind and giving yourself that spiritual ability to tap into your peace and your power without all the overwhelm and all the noise. So with no further ado, we bring on the beautiful Diane. Hello, Diane. How are you?
Hi, Terri. I'm very well. Thank you. How are you?
I am so well. And, I really want to preface this by saying that, I would have loved to have heard your message when in my younger life, because, the body doesn't lie. And your story kind of kicks off where you've lost two people in your life and they've died of a disease, and you watched them being so miserable and unhappy in their life. And it's not that their misery killed them, but perhaps the element of their life and just not honoring who they are and what they truly believed into themselves may have caused them illness. And this is such a huge thing. And whether it happens through depression, emotional disease, or physical. But would you like to start by telling us about the sad story of your cousin and your sister-in-law and how that really shaped your thoughts on leaving yourself stuck in a very miserable life?
Yes, absolutely. Those two events, losing first my cousin and my sister-in-law, were seminal moments in my mind because these women were very dear to me. I didn't see my cousin that often, but we grew up together and were really close when we got together. It was one of those times that you just feel like you haven't been apart. You just pick it right back up. She was so sweet. My sister-in-law as well. So I was aware of their story before they became ill with cancer. And each of them was very unhappy in their marriage. They had done what they could to try to fix it. Nothing really worked, but they were determined to stay there. My cousin, because she had two little boys, my sister-in-law did not have any children, but she believed religiously it would have been wrong for her to leave. So they each stayed there. And as you said, it's not that unhappy marriage caused them to get sick and die, but I believe it contributed to that. When you deny what your heart is telling you, when you turn your back on your own happiness and say, no, it's not important, I think that does contribute to our life force being diminished in some way. For them, they each got a different kind of female reproductive cancer and died in a relatively short period of time. My sister-in-law in just 9 months. So at the time that happened, I was happily married, had 3 kids, things were great. But it seemed like I remember sitting in the hospital waiting room visiting my sister-in-law, thinking, note this, like note to self, that being unhappy can contribute to a shortened life. I mean, that's how I perceived it. And so years later, when my marriage had taken a turn and it was no longer a happy place and wasn't good for me, I remembered that. I knew it. And I made the very hard decision to leave my marriage because at that time, we had been married over 25 years. We had 3 successful, smart, beautiful kids. Many people had described us as the perfect family. And here I was taking a sledgehammer to that, right? And I left and turned all of that upside down.
But you must have been really inwardly understanding that you were not honoring yourself. And I am sure, like, I'm a big advocate that we need, and I've been married twice. So I'm a strong advocate that we do need to, obviously honor that, covenant that we make. And I do take that very seriously. But I think taking your own health and your own peace and everything else seriously is equally as important, because we are energetic human beings, as you know. So that energetic force that we're made up of, if we're not honoring ourselves and we are allowing ourselves to suffer. I mean, I watched someone close to me have breast cancer, and she was close enough to me that, it could have been definitely a life and death situation. And I know that it had a lot to do with her marriage and also her family. And, I know that there was a lot of healing and a lot of work that I watched her go through. And I feel that, I was there with her to really help her through. She has a faith in God, but, there is no doubt that, our body is really our frequency, and the body is what keeps the score. So you made the decision to leave. And what happened at that? So that point, you obviously honored your soul. I have brought a tear to your eye.
Oh my goodness. I agree with you. And that was one of the reasons it was so hard to leave, is because you do make those vows. And I took them seriously. I never in a million years imagined I would be the one leaving or be divorced. But I think the covenant we have to ourselves supersedes everything else. And I had tried really hard. I mean, it was years that I was working on that. And it was just one day I snapped like a dry twig and announced I was leaving, having had no plan to do so. Anyway, that sparked what was a dark night of the soul for me, that dark night that lasted probably 4 or 5 months. An absolutely gut-wrenching time in my life. Obviously affected my kids the most, which is what made it hard. I never regretted leaving my husband. I felt bad for what I was putting my kids through, yet I had to do it to honor my own heart and soul and what was good for me. And we all made it through. Everybody better for it. Everyone's on solid footing now. I see my exit family things. We're fine together, exchange a hug, happy to see each other. Kids are great. Yeah, we all came out the other side. That was good.
That is amazing. And look, I definitely felt like a frog in water in my first marriage. I mean, I married my childhood sweetheart, and I know how painful it is to make that decision, especially when there seems to be so much at stake. But I was dying inside, and I know deep down inside he was as well. And, two, beautiful people. I love him dearly to this day. And like you echoed, it was really, really difficult on the family and, the whole community when that decision was made. In fact, I really lost a lot. I lost a lot of friends. I lost so much in that. Yeah. But do you know, it still was probably the best thing I could have ever done. And I know even my children, nobody's ever happy about a family separating. And this is not about walking away from marriage. This is not about anything like this. This is about honoring yourself, honoring your peace, and honoring your wisdom. And you wrote a book called Open Up and Become Unstuck. Yes. And I would like you to talk about some of those breakthroughs of just stopping the overthinking mind, because I know there's so many of us out there, And quite often it comes from an unhappy life. However, can you talk me through some of those principles and you know, that book that you wrote?
Absolutely. So I have been in the coaching space since 2012, and I'm also a certified health coach. That's how I started out and transitioned over to working more as a life coach. Um, that is the thing that most people complain about in our initial conversations, is that they feel stuck. When people reach out to me, it's not because something is, absolutely and dreadfully wrong in their life, but there's this thread of not rightness. That's like, this could be better. Something needs to shift and I don't know what it is. They experience that as feeling stuck. And so I was inspired to write this book probably back in 2016, but it took me a while to sidle up to, yes, I'm actually going to write a book. And I ended up working with a book coach to get me started writing, because it was just as difficult to get started. It was for me. But once I got started, it flowed. And I believe absolutely that in order to become unstuck, to challenge what we've always thought and what we've always believed, the things that have us feeling like we are stuck, we have got to open up. And to open up means that you know that you don't know everything. You have to be willing to set aside, or to at least look at, to analyze, to hold up to the light and say, is this really true? And even if it was true before, is it still true now? To question those things and open up to what life might be telling you now, to what your heart is calling you toward now, because life is fluid. What worked for you when you were 20 is probably not going to work for you when you're 35, and it sure as heck won't work for you when you're 50. It is up to us to be in flow with life, to not be rigidly stuck in one place. In fact, one of the chapters in my book is called Don't Plant Your Flag. Like when somebody summits a mountain and they put their flag in, it's like, here I am, here I stand. So many times we do that in our lives, right? Here I stand. This is my career. This is my marriage. This is my belief. This is my political party. And life can take us other places
Oh
that maybe,
yeah.
yeah. And
Oh
the
yes.
more open we are to question things and be like, is that still true? Do I still believe that? Is this who I want to be? That willingness to be open and question is what really gets people unstuck. And then the work that I do with them is not what I tell them to do, but it's me giving them the confidence to trust that calling within themselves.
I love that. And I love how you were telling me that you are their biggest cheerleader, because I believe everybody needs to feel that somebody believes in them. And, you know, you are so right in saying that, you know, what works for you at 20 may not work for you at 35. And, you know, life is fluid and, you know, life changes. I mean, I know my life changed very, very much so from the point when I met my next husband, who has passed away today. And of course, you know, I had 18 absolutely exquisite years with him. And so I know so very well that life can change in an absolute flash. And I think one of the greatest things that I've probably had to learn is to, rather than think with the monkey mind, and we're going to tap into this in just a moment, and be kind of like, how am I going to do this? What is the best way for me to do this? And, you know, thinking and thinking and thinking until we outthink ourselves and we end up so stuck and so trapped in that mentality. There's a point that you've got to say, what is the purpose this is happening for? and step back and just truly
Yes.
just smell the roses and allow life to take its natural flow and its natural course. And in that, because you are an expert on this, you talk to me about how people do try to overthink things. And I know this is absolutely, this is relentlessly the cold, hard facts that people are trying to figure out everything. Can
They
you
are.
explain? Yeah, can you explain why it doesn't always work and what the alternatives are?
Absolutely. That's such a great question. And I love to talk about this because it's not talked about. It is just, thinking is overrated. And hang in there with me because I know that sounds like a bold statement. I've got nothing against thinking. It is one great tool that we have as humans, but it is absolutely not the only tool. But it's just what we do naturally. You mentioned the monkey mind. It's just what we gravitate toward. That egoic mind is happy to chatter away at us 24/7. So I liken this to, the metaphor I like to use is a handyman who carries around only a hammer in his toolbox. Now, there's nothing wrong with a hammer. A hammer is a great tool, very useful, but it's certainly not the only tool that you need as a handyman. There's a variety of others. And the same with us. Thinking is a great tool, but it's not the only tool. Sometimes we need something more nuanced. And that's what coaching, life coaching to me helps you do, is to tap into those other tools that we have, because our mind can become, I talk about this with my clients, very much like a high school track. It's a quarter mile of the same thoughts you're thinking over and over and over without getting any insight, without any deeper understanding, any ahas. You're just thinking, thinking, thinking. And that absolutely can contribute to stuckness because you're just on that same loop.
Yes.
So I like to work with my clients, and if it's okay with you, if I get into this now, is what we do to break that.
Oh,
So
I would absolutely love to break that. And I'm kind of tossing up whether to break that now or to have our listeners wait till the end and do that then. But I'm going to let you be the authority on that one, Diane. What do you think is the best course of action?
well, what I like to do is to see, as a holistic life coach, there are two things that I believe. Number one is that we are each body, mind, and spirit. We are not just goal-seeking machines where it's get the job, get the house, have the 2.5 kids and all of the trappings of a regular life. There's so much more to life than that. There is so much more to you than that. And so approaching it as body, mind, and spirit is a fundamental pillar of my coaching. The other thing is that I believe that we each carry our answers within us. The coaching that I do, I don't ever tell people what to do. My job as a coach is to help them tap into their own inner wisdom, their own inner guidance. And a great way to do that is to escape from the loop of the repetitive thoughts and to write. It's like when you journal, when you write, it's like an off ramp for those thoughts, pardon me, down your arm and onto paper. There is a process that happens when you begin writing and journaling that allows you to get beyond those thoughts that have been just, repeating in a loop in your mind. You are able to access insights that when you're writing, that's like, I always feel this way when, like, oh, I didn't realize that. Or you connect the dots. You understand where your triggers are. You understand why you keep doing what you do. It's such a cathartic, empowering exercise, but most people give it the old eye roll, like, oh, not that. And I'm like, yes, that. I have quit apologizing for it. I am so confident in its value that I no longer apologize for asking people to write, because I know the valuable practice that it is, how it can take them to a higher level, how it will help them get unstuck and be open to other ideas, other
Well, I'm going to do our
possibilities.
viewers. I'm going to do our viewers a really, really big favor, and I'm a serial interrupter right there. But while we're on that gravy stroke, getting the words from the head down the arm and onto the paper. Can you set the mood a little bit around this? Because I know some people may have absolutely no idea. Others may have tried many different ways of doing it. Others may be stuck in one particular way, and maybe it works and maybe it doesn't. So are we talking about a methodology where we're writing down the problem first and then we're opening it out? Like, can you talk me through the method that you're actually talking about?
I am so glad that you interrupted, because that is such an important point to make. Many people, if they have not journaled or written in this way before, don't know how to begin, and it feels incredibly awkward. I had one of my clients say, I don't know what to write. And I said, well, then begin with, I have no idea why Diane is making me do this. I think it's stupid. That's a great place to start. I
Oh my
don't have
gosh.
a methodology, and I really am not a fan of the very prescribed, write this, then write that, then write that, because it's taking the creativity out of it.
Yeah.
What I would encourage our listeners to do is to be patient with this process and recognize that anything in the beginning is going to feel awkward. Think about when you learn to ride a bike, or when you learn to surf or crochet or bake. None of us begin as masters. We all begin as novices. And even with something as simple as writing, it's like, well, I've been writing all my life. Well, you might be able to write in cursive, good for you, but the things that we're writing now are different. So please give yourself that runway, that time of, yes, it's awkward. I'm not sure what I'm going to do here, but I want to get started, and just write. And I take a lot of this from Julia Cameron's book, The Artist's Way. She says, write about how you hate your kitchen curtains. Write about how you don't like how your dog barks every time somebody walks in front of your house. Write about how your brother-in-law drives you nuts. Just begin anywhere and just let it flow. I would say you can set a timer, or tell yourself, I have to write at least one page, and just make yourself fill it. And you'll have to push yourself a little bit, but that's okay. Give yourself permission to feel awkward and for this process to feel strange, because on the other side of that is the flow. But nobody feels that. Well, I should say nobody I have known has felt that immediately. You have to give yourself that clunky, I don't know what I'm doing. This seems silly. I'm not sure what I'm going to say. Yeah, let that go. Let that be part of what you write.
And you talk about, which I feel is very relevant to this conversation, because there's so many people that are looking at social media today, and they're looking at all these wonderfully, beautifully well filtered people that show up when they're having the best day, and you don't see them when they're doing life the normal way, but you see them when they're at their best. So many people are in a state of comparisonitis, and also a state of depression, because they don't feel like they're enough. And
Yes.
this is causing people to look at the outside world and then bring it into themselves, and then feel like, well, I don't match up, I'm not good enough. So that causes this great big huge kind of domino effect of negativity. You talk about loving yourself and really working from the inside out. Can you talk me through that process of really starting with yourself and understanding that is the core.
Absolutely. And that is such an important point that I do with all of my clients in my coaching. Unless we are trained otherwise, we are an outside in creature. We look at the world around us to tell us how we feel that day. And social media is a huge part of that. We're, like you said, comparing our very mundane, regular lives where the dog got sick on the carpet and I forgot to pay that bill on time to other people's very, very well curated highlight reel and feeling like, can I just say crap? I mean, we feel bad about our lives.
Yeah.
And that is a very reactive way to live. When we do that, we are not in our power at all. We're saying, let me look at the outside world, see what's going on around me, and they'll tell me how to feel. Ooh, ouch. That just makes me cringe because we forfeited everything, and the outer world will always leave us feeling less than. Because the outer world, it's chaotic. It's always changing. Who's a hero today is a loser tomorrow. And it's just this mishmash of so much. And we feel overwhelmed and intimidated by it. We always come away feeling less than when we compare ourselves to that. So how do we flip that? How do we change that dynamic and live from the inside out? To live from the inside out, what that means is that each day when you begin your day, this is something else I don't apologize for anymore. I suggest that people set aside some time, even if it means setting your alarm 20 minutes earlier, to get up and create your own quiet moment, whether it's with a cup of tea, a cup of coffee. I always have some spiritually geared book that I'm reading or rereading, even for just a few minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. My journaling practice, because I do that every day, and just a moment of stillness to set your intention for the day. Like, what Diane do I want to show to the world? To touch base with my inner self, tap into that calm, that quiet confidence that I don't have to prove myself to anybody, to take a moment to tap into your goodness, your wholeness, so that when you go out and meet the world, it is not from this place of, please tell me what I should think, to it's like, this is who I am. From this strong, quiet place within, yes, that inside strength, then when you meet the outer world, you don't experience it as this big mess. You're not in it. You're back. You're observing it. You can see it. You interact with it just fine, but not from that place of neediness, of desperation, of somebody, please tell me that I'm okay. Please like my post. Please share my reel. That sort of thing. Whereas just like, oh, like I said, you forfeited your power when you do that.
Yeah. I have to share this. One of the worst things that happened in my career was also possibly one of the best things that happened as well. And it'll never ever take away that, obviously the pain of losing my beloved. However, not talking about that specific loss. However, talking about the world, social media, and how the outside in and the inside out actually changed the course of my whole career. Is I was so used to showing up in a certain way all the time and doing what everybody else does. And that is showing up when you're inspirationally showing up. You've got something to say to the world that's going to clearly change their life. And when all of a sudden things went south, all of a sudden I went from being in the social space for a decade to suddenly absent because I was in damage control in my life. And I had this moment of reckoning when I said to myself, I am just not prepared to show up and pretend that I've got it all together when I don't. Because I feel that authenticity is I find that to be extremely valuable. So you know what? There was only one thing for me to do, maybe two. Number one, quit everything, throw everything in and walk away. Or number two, be honest and be real with the world. And at the time when, because my husband passed away of CJD, which is a brain degenerative disease, he was a very brilliant man who wanted me to go on. So I went on and I told the world what was going on in my life. And that changed, that pivoted my career, because I had people that would jump on a call with me and say, oh, you don't have to explain who you are. I've watched your stories. I've been watching you for years, Terri. And at first I thought, oh, yeah, she's just like everybody else. But then I watched and I saw what happened to you in the biggest crisis of your life. And that's when I knew you were the real deal. You see, people can't live up to perfection.
No. And I think what resonates most with people is authenticity. You don't want Sally Sunshine to be your coach, because, you don't want to talk to somebody who's never had a serious challenge or a bad day. I feel like, to whatever extent I am good at what I do, I feel it's because I have stepped on every landmine in the field. I have stumbled. I have made mistakes. I have hit the wall a number of times in a number of ways. And I think this is when life gets really good. Like you said, when you have those moments, when you are humbled, I think that's what it is. Life humbles you, right?
Yeah.
You thought you were going to be this and you're not. You thought you were going to do this and you can't, or whatever that is. You can either just become bitter and turn inward and give up, or you can use that as fuel. One of my favorite, I started when I was on my own after I left my husband, I started my first quote book, and I would write down inspirational messages. And one of the first ones I wrote was that it is from the compost of life that the most beautiful things grow, right? You think about the lily coming out of the mud, right? And we can use those experiences not to embitter us, but to enrich our lives and empower us to share that with other people, because that's when the pain becomes the blessing. I think is when we take our stories, our pain, our lessons that we learned along the way and share it. That's when we lift everyone up.
That's pain to power. And I believe that is where the Genius Zone comes from. And I feel like my next question that I was going to really open up, you've covered so much in what you've said. It's returning to wholeness. And it's about, becoming who you are so you know your worth. Would you like to, I guess, amplify that philosophy? Because I know that you are all about wholeness and self-worth and self-value. And, is it about achievements or is it about just being all of you? Would you like to open up on that?
I would. And, I'd like to start with a metaphor, because to me, an image, even if you are just creating it in your mind as I speak, I think is very powerful. If you think of someone walking through a forest and falling into a very deep pit, 25 feet deep, packed earth, no roots, nothing to climb up on, nothing, and they're stuck in that pit. That's where most people are when it comes to living their life. They think, I need to get up out of this pit and then I can go on my way. This pit, what that pit is the idea that they are unworthy, the idea that they are not good enough, that they have to prove their worth, they have to earn their good. And for women, speaking mostly for women here, I know myself and I know from my clients that we think that we do that by putting other people ahead of us. we're always at the bottom of the list. Everybody has to have clean underwear and organized and everything just so, meals cooked and everything just perfect. And then if I have any energy left, I might do something for myself. And they feel like they have to sacrifice and work so hard and earn and achieve so much to climb out of that pit. And that's just not the right picture. What I want to help clients and everyone understand is that there's no pit. You are not unworthy and have to earn your worthiness. You are on solid level ground right now, sister. We can just go. You are whole. You are worthy because that's how you were created. Our worth is not something we earn. It's how we were created. We were created worthy. I just gave a speech at an expo, the Ultimate Women's Expo in Atlanta here several weeks ago. And I had a slide in my presentation, and you could see the women, like you could see it on their faces when they saw this. It was of a sleeping baby that was probably a month old in this cute little light blue and white striped sleeper. And I said, look at that baby. And all the women are like, oh, right. And I said, does that baby know its worth? Like, of course it does. Babies aren't rolling around in their crib saying, gosh, if I just had some teeth and could learn to walk, then I'd be good. Right? It's like, if I could get this hair to grow, or if I could stop, filling my diaper every day. I mean, they know their worth as they are. Like, here I am, world, love me, care for me, because I am worthy, right?
Yeah.
We get schooled out of that. So worthy is how we are created. It is not something we have to do. That box has already been checked. So
Yeah.
helping my clients know that, and you can see that moment in our coaching. And I usually do a 3-month program, and like you can see that moment where it just like clicks for them, and they're like, oh, and this weight comes off their shoulder. It's like, oh, I can go for what I want, and I can break up with this person who's treating me badly, or I can quit this job that isn't fulfilling. I can go back to school if I want to. And, just this panorama of possibilities open for them when they realize they're already worthy. There's no pit for them to crawl out of. They're on solid ground. Let's go.
I love that. And, I've never heard of or thought of it before, like the way you've described it with the baby and that baby that's already feeling that worth. One thing I do know, and I do teach this a lot, is that we become sort of almost, I guess, inhibited, if you will, held back, for probably want of a better way of putting it, and in solid fear because of the voices that are in our head from things and experiences and what people have said to us in our past. And so when you said that metaphor about the baby and really just having it all and wanting for nothing, they're not thinking about growing teeth and hair and, learning to walk and talk. They're just being. So that is an absolute spectacular metaphor. And, it takes a lot, and this leads me to my next question, to kind of detangle all these stories and unleash all of those old blocks that we've had. And one of the things that you are a very strong advocate on is becoming a blank canvas. So I would love for you to talk me through the fresh blank canvas and, what it takes to get that person there and what do they create.
Oh, yes. I love that so much. We do, and I talk about this in my book. When you mentioned that we realize there's so much to untangle and do, some people in the process think that they need to go back and sort through where they lost their sense of worthiness, that they have to go back and figure out who said what at what point in their life that made them feel bad about themselves and all of that. That's what I love about being a life coach, is that we don't have to do that. It honestly doesn't matter. To own your worthiness is just returning to something you already have. It's already within you. It's in place. We don't need to go back and sort through that big chest full of wrongs and hurts and unfairness and bad choices and all of that. We can just release it. And this is where writing comes in. This is where coaching helps you release it. But then we're ready to go. And when you get to that point, it is as if you are turning this page on this easel of all the scribbles and scary drawings and monsters and terrible stuff. And you're turning that page and you got a fresh blank canvas on which you can create your life. And that can also be scary. I mean, let's be honest here. Sometimes blank canvases are scary. You're like, I don't know what I'm going to do. What am I supposed to do? What's my purpose? And what I would say to that, and how I help my clients through with that, is just begin, going back to Joseph Campbell, begin with what brings you joy. And the baby thing too. What did you love to do when you were 5 years old? Did you sing? Did you build? Were you always outside? Did you write stories? Were you always a doctor playing pretend, doctor with all your stuffed toys? Like that part of you is still there. It might be dormant. It might be snoozing because it's been, neglected for so long, but you can absolutely bring that out. And that is a great place to begin painting on this canvas. And I actually recommend that people go out and get themselves a big sketchbook, as big as you're comfortable with. I've got like an 11 by 14 or something like that. Good quality artist weight paper. Buy yourself some colored gel pens or markers, whatever makes your skirt fly up, and just start playing. Just start drawing and writing and doodling and give yourself that space to create. Just like when we talked about writing, it feels awkward to get going. This can feel awkward too, but you're giving yourself permission to create your life. And please, please, please don't have the expectation that you'll figure it out really soon. One of my very, very first newsletters that I've written, and I have written over 80 now, I think you can find them on my website, was a longer runway. And I explained it this way. If you took a regular passenger jet, a 747, and you gave it 600 feet to take off, and it didn't take off, you would conclude that it's like, well, this plane can't fly. It's still on the ground. It's obviously not capable of flying. And then anybody thinking would be, well, it absolutely can fly. You just need a longer runway. Instead of 600 feet, give it, 6,000 feet or however long it takes. I forget now. I looked it up for my newsletter, but I've forgotten. And with a long enough runway, it can absolutely fly. In the same with our listeners. You think, oh, I can't do this. This meditating is hard, or this journaling practice is hard, or this doodling, creating thing is hard. Give yourself a long enough runway. It will feel awkward in the beginning, but if you give yourself the time to get comfortable with it, you too will fly.
Wow, I love that. If you have loved listening to these incredible, powerful metaphors by this wonderful woman, I want you to tap into the show notes, because you're going to get so many gold nuggets, and you will be able to contact Diane and learn how you can work with her. Diane, I would love to kind of bring this conversation full circle into what you have already touched on, being around morning practices. And you've talked so much about the power of journaling and, just honoring ourselves, and, right through to creating that blank canvas. And I feel that you've just got so much here to offer. And I would love to ask you the question, what do you think is so powerful about a person setting their precedents for the day, which I know you did touch at the beginning here. But why is a morning practice so incredibly important? And, what is it that can change a person's, life through just developing morning practices?
I think that a morning practice can serve as your North Star, right? What gives you direction. Because if you take that time to be still in the moment, just be present with yourself. Please do this before you pick up your phone and get distracted. To get quiet, to read whatever suits you, whether there are a million beautiful spiritual books out there, to journal, to sit down and write, to get quiet, and set your intention for the day. Like, I want to be peacefully productive. I want to feel energized for my day. I want to remember that I'm loved. When you do that, that is your North Star, and that will help you stay steady when you do step out into the world and are met with all the chaos and the social media and the nonsense that is just the world these days. You don't feel like you're lost in it. You feel like you've still got your way. You can be in it, but not consumed by it. And that is a very powerful thing. And just like going back, speaking of full circle, back to the beginning of my cousin and my sister-in-law who died of those diseases, they didn't have one unhappy day in their marriage and get cancer the next. Things evolve over time, right? They can devolve over time like their health did, or they can evolve over time like your practices. The more you do it, the more natural it will feel, the more you will own it. And it's your creativity in yourself. It's there within you, your authentic self, but it's like a timid animal. If there is a kitten that has been abandoned, it's not just going to come marching out from the bush, ready to go with whoever picks it up. It's timid. It has to feel safe before it comes out. Your authentic self, your creativity, that spark within you, it needs to feel safe too to come out. And a morning practice creates that safety for that part of you to emerge. So the more you do it, the safer it will be for that part of you to show up in the world, to come out. And then that is your North Star that will keep you steady as you navigate participating in the world today. And it's a beautiful thing. Just give it time to evolve and get there. I absolutely promise you will.
I absolutely love that. And as a person who knows and studies and researches and transforms so much around patterns, and you have obviously studied that intensely yourself, I can honestly say that, I kind of live a little bit nomadic. I live half the time in my own home where I have my own space, and then I live the other half in with my mother, where my studio is here. And she is the most glorious woman. She is so profoundly inspirational. But one of the greatest things, if I was to say, if someone said to me, what is the secrets of your mum's happiness? Because she is a really joyful, peaceful, incredible woman who has overcome so much. What do you think it is? I would go boom, what Diane just said. It is routine. It's the morning routine. I could tell you step by step, minute by minute, what my mother does every single morning. And she has developed these rituals. So I cannot agree with that more. And Diane, I just want to say that You've brought so much hope to so many people, including people that may be stuck in, bad relationships. It may not necessarily be marriages because, like we both said in the beginning, we want to be able to honor that place and that space, but we want to also make sure we're honoring ourselves first, because when you put yourself first, you are really making a change to your whole life. So it wouldn't be the Genius Zone without this last question. So, we're going to wrap up, we're going to go, you're going to kind of reflect on everything that was said in the show. And if there was one thing you think, oh my gosh, I wish I had said it, or you'd like to reiterate and make a little bit more emphasis on for that person who's praying to hear your message, what would you like to share to conclude our podcast?
I would actually like to share a quote, one of my favorite quotes. I'm a quoteaholic. I've got a million of them in my head.
And a storyaholic too. So good at
it. This quote comes from Howard Thurman, and I think it addresses so many people. He said, "Do not ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive. Then go and do that, because what the world needs is more people who have come alive." It's honoring your own, when people are searching for their purpose and what should I do with my life, and I feel like I don't, do what makes you come alive. Trust yourself, nurture yourself.
That was a mic drop moment, that one. Oh my gosh, I love that.
So that's what I would like to leave our listeners with, just to really lean into what makes you come alive. Trust that, trust yourself, and embrace your unique, beautiful journey.
Diane, thank you so much. You have been an absolute champion.
No, my pleasure. My pleasure. It is empowering people is my jam. That's what makes me come alive.
And if you have loved this show, why not subscribe, like, get in contact with the beautiful Diane, because remember, you deserve it. So I would like to ask you to subscribe to the show, and we will see you on our next session of the Genius Zone. Bye for now.